As I was saying in my last video, I recently got my hands on the Ridgid Gen5X 5-tool combo kit, which includes their latest 18-volt power tools from Ridgid, including their 3-speed impact driver, their hammer drill, their 7¼ inch circular saw, reciprocating saw, and their LED flashlight. In this video, we're going to focus on their cordless 18-volt circular saw. Normally when new tools hit the market, they don't really gather much attention unless they're featuring a brushless motor. And even though this new circular saw doesn't feature a brushless motor, and neither do the rest of the tools included in this kit, what makes this circular saw unique is that it's sporting a full-size 7¼ inch circular saw blade. If you take a look at the vast majority of cordless circular saws on the market today, you'll typically find saws using blades in the range of 5 inches for the entry-level models, and saws using 6½ inch blades for the pro models. Even Ridgid's previous 18-volt cordless circular saw uses 6½ inch blades, so the fact that this cordless circular saw uses full-size blades is pretty impressive for a couple of reasons. The first reason is the most obvious, which is the fact that 7¼ inch blades are extremely common, and compared to the smaller blades, they're also more affordable. So you won't have a hard time finding regular sized blades. The next reason this circular saw is impressive is because most cordless circular saws don't carry full-size blades, which is because up until recently, most cordless circular saws didn't have the huevos to power full-size blades. So the big question is, did Ridgid simply redesign their previous X4 model and slap on a full-size blade? Or does this new model have the huevos to power a full-size blade? Stick around and find out. So here in the Tool Craze Labs, I put it through a few tests to see how well this new circular saw performs. I could just tell you how it did, but I always find it much better to show you guys how it performs. So here let's take a closer look. Let's start it off with the most basic of tasks, and something that most users are going to be using this saw for, which is making cuts into 2x4 lumber. It didn't surprise me it could make these cuts easily, but here we can see that I've made these cuts at a good pace with the included framing blade. Next we'll mix things up with a much tougher challenge. In this test, we have two 2x4s sandwiched in between a couple of pressure-treated 2x12 lumber. I like this test because the pressure-treated lumber adds additional difficulty for the saw. And in this test, I decided to max out the saw with 4 pieces of stacked OSB, measuring a total thickness of 2 3/8 inches. I didn't see any info on its max cutting capacity, but it seems to max out at 2 3/8 inches. It goes at a nice pace, especially when considering we've got 4 pieces of OSB stacked together. Most people will just cut each piece individually, but if you can stack them on top of each other, you can get more work done faster. So its performance is very good for a brushed cordless circular saw, and it does in fact have the guts to sport a full-size circular saw blade. So it's not just for bragging rights, as it can easily tear up wood. One of the things that I did notice on the circular saw was that even though the motor tops out at 3,700 RPM no load speed, it's got a torquey motor with lots of torque to put up a good fight. Notice how on the 4 pieces of OSB cut, the motor does slow down a bit, but I very much like that it pushes through and it doesn't want to bog down easily. I haven't tried out all the cordless circular saws out there, but out of the few that I have tried, I can easily say that it's a step up from the Ryobi 18-volt 6½ inch model, which was a pretty good saw on its own. And compared to the Milwaukee M18 Fuel 7¼ inch model, it's a step down from that one in terms of performance, as the Milwaukee has a more powerful motor. But then again, it's a brushless model. And when it comes to runtime, it does extremely well. I did the usual runtime test, that of cutting 2x4 lumber, while using the included 4.0 battery until the battery gave out. The Milwaukee and its brushless motor made an impressive 196 cuts into 2x4s with the same size battery. But this Ridgid Gen5X model made an impressive 207 cuts into 2x4s. Now let's take a closer look at the saw itself. It's a nice saw overall, and we already know that it uses a regular sized blade. This model also goes with the traditional blade placement on the right side of the saw to make it more in line with the quarter models we're all accustomed to. Most users like the blade on the right side, but because I'm right-handed, I prefer the blade on the left side of the saw as it makes it much easier for me to use. There's nothing wrong with what side of the blade is on, as it's all a matter of user preference. It also has a built-in LED light, which is activated by a button on the handle of the saw when you grip the saw. It works pretty much like the Milwaukee Field brushless saws, and it lights up only in front of the blade, which makes it very easy for starting cuts in low light. Also, just like the Milwaukee Field models, the light doesn't go beyond the shoe, so you can't see the cutting line after you start your cut. As for the overall materials used, I would say that this saw fits somewhere between a mid-range saw and a pro brand saw. It appears to use quality materials on the upper blade guard and on the shoe itself. I would assume that they're both aluminum because the shoe that they used looks like the same exact one used in the original Milwaukee M18 brush circular saw, which is an aluminum shoe, I believe. That saw also uses aluminum blade guards, so I'm assuming that the upper blade guard is also made out of aluminum. Although the shoe itself is made out of aluminum, the bracket that holds the shoe to the saw seems to be made out of steel. I did like that the saw has bevel detents and stops for choosing popular bevel angles. One thing I wasn't too crazy about was that they went with a plastic lower blade guard. It's a very nice saw overall, but the plastic blade guard just doesn't fit with this model. It makes more sense on an entry-level saw. I did like that the upper blade guard features the dust ejection port, and it clears the sawdust to the side of the saw, and it keeps most of the dust away from your material. And the last thing is its weight, as it comes in at 10.4 pounds. This is over a pound heavier than the M18 brushed and brushless models, and almost half a pound heavier than the Makita X2 model. So its weight is more of that of a corded circular saw. And many people like the lower weight and portability of cordless circular saws. So it still receives 2 thumbs up for its great performance and its nice feature set. It's not a brushless saw, but its brush motor lets us know we can still get great performance out of brush power tools, and that we don't need brushless motors to get amazing runtimes out of your batteries. And the fact that it uses a full-size blade is a huge selling point. Now you don't have to worry about having a good selection of blades for your cordless circular saw. So stick around for the rest of the reviews of the Gen5X 5-tool combo kit, including the 3-speed impact driver, the hammer drill, reciprocating saw, and their LED flashlight. And also make sure to like this video, subscribe if you're a big fan of tools, follow me on social media over at Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and over at the web at toolcraze.net for more tool reviews and tool news. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.